From the studios of Staten Island Community Television, you're watching In the Bleachers, the TV show for the world's most passionate sports fans. Hello, everyone. I'm Jaime Hixson. We may or may not be hearing from Hector Bosa for tonight's show. He's been a little bit under the weather. He says he'll call in, but right now we're pretty much playing this whole thing by ear. So if he calls in, great. Otherwise, I am more than ready to lead you in on a whole hour of sports. But before we do, I wanted to wish everyone a very happy belated Mother's Day to all of the mothers that were out there. We hope you had a wonderful day, and we hope that you get peace, blessings, and lots of love from your family and friends. Now, if there's someone out there that's watching and they have a sports story to tell, then we'd like to make it happen. So you could catch us either on Facebook or Twitter, and we'd be more than happy to hear from you. And I think that's Hector finally calling in on the phone. Is that you, Hector?
Yes, the hottest, baddest, sexiest man on cable access TV is here for you once again.
Good. So how you feeling?
Introduce me as that?
Wait, what?
Are you going to introduce me like that?
No.
Why not? You should.
Because it's false.
It's in the contract.
Okay, you need to stop talking about this damn contract. I have not seen any paperwork whatsoever that would even call for something so bogus to be said on the air.
I'll show you contract paper. So let me ask you this. The Yankees were on an 11-game winning streak. Is that correct?
Yeah, they were on an 11-game winning streak.
They lost, and now they beat the Rangers, the Texas Rangers, 1-0 today. How do you see them? Do you see them going to the playoffs?
Do I see the Yankees going to the playoffs?
Yes.
Way too early to even determine that. It's only May. But they are playing well. They're really getting good contributions from their bullpen. The bullpen has been rock solid. And there have been Yankees who have pretty much emerged as unsung heroes for the team. For every Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton and DJ LeMahieu, there's been guys like Nestor Cortes, Jordan Montgomery, also Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, and Josh Donaldson, who have been slowly but surely making their presence felt by coming up with some big-time plays.
And Chapman is still on the team, right?
Yeah, he's already saved 7 straight games.
Yeah, because I haven't heard. And they almost was on a... They were almost on a, they almost had a shutout.
Mm-hmm. They almost had a no-hitter in today's game because Nestor Cortes threw 7 1/3 shutout innings. 7 1/3 no-hit innings, of course, which led to a shutout.
Yeah, I was looking at that because I was going, it's been a while since the Yankees had a shutout like that.
Mm-hmm.
But, or should I say almost a no-hitter. And the Mets had a no-hitter just recently.
Yeah, thrown by the Mets.
Yes. Second in their existence.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they had more, though. I really thought they had more than 2 no-hitters.
If you're talking about from both teams?
No, the Mets.
No, it's basically been the Mets that have been the team that threw that no-hitter. It was a combined no-hitter, too.
Yeah, but I didn't know it was just 2. I thought it was like 4.
No, no,
But
no,
I
no.
guess I was only two. Wow. I know the Yankees have had more than two though, because they had David Cone threw one,
And so did David Wells.
David Wells. Didn't Gidry throw one?
No, Ron Guidry never threw a no hitter. Dave
Ah,
Righetti
damn.
did, and I was at Dave Righetti's no hitter.
Dave Rigetti. Oh, that's right. That's right. You were. How was that? How does that feel when you're seeing something special like that?
It was so spectacular. The entire crowd was just buzzing about Righetti's feat, and the fact that it came against the Red Sox made it even more sweeter.
But that must have been wild. Like the fans chanting it all.
Mm-hmm.
And the fans must have gone crazy when you had almost a hit.
Oh, they were going bonkers, and they stood around to see Righetti be interviewed then by Sports Channel. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Mel Allen who called that game for television.
Oh wow!
Mm-hmm.
And did the place shake?
No, I don't remember it shaking.
Yeah, because I've heard that when they've won the World Series or things of that nature,
Mm-hmm.
that place shakes and even though it's built well, but it felt shaking. It was
Mm-hmm.
shaking. So, because I've been in that one, but when I've heard on the fan, on sports media
Mm-hmm.
channel. What do you think about a World Series, a Subway World Series?
From your mouth to God's ears. But like I said, it's only May.
Yeah, but I'm just saying.
Get back to me in around August or September.
But I'll tell you something else. I don't think anybody wants the Subway World Series.
You could say that again.
I would
Only the
like
people
it.
here want
I
it.
would like it, but I've spoken to a lot of fans in between,
Mm-hmm.
and it would be very hard for them to if the Yankees win or the Mets win, because the Yankees already have the bragging rights already by beating the Mets one time when they had that World Series.
Mm-hmm.
And the Yankees have been more successful. Winning how many? 27 World Series?
Yeah.
Or 28, somewhere around there.
It's 27.
27, thank you. And, and it's hard when it's your next door neighbor. Anybody else you can beat. But when it's the Mets, then the rivalry comes in and the talking comes in, and now they have the bragging rights. Oh, we beat you. It's kind of hard to go through that. I mean, I like it, but what do you think of something like that happening?
I would be thrilled to see another Subway World Series. I don't know what these guys are complaining about. I mean, you have two teams, both of which have already won 20 games already, both in first place in their respective Eastern divisions, both with very, very good players. And that's another thing. That's another thing about the Mets, because for every Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor or any other players to that nature, they've been getting contributions from people that no one would even think of.
Such as?
Well, let's see.
Recall?
Jeff McNeil, of course. Brandon Nimmo, of course. That's pretty much all the names I could think of.
Right. Now let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
I texted you this one time, but if Aaron Judge decides not to sign with the Yankees, do you think the Mets will try to sign him?
I wouldn't rule it out. Although the Mets, I should say, have been pretty stingy with their payroll. But then again,
How
last year
so?
hmm?
How are they? They have the Cohen tax. The- Can you believe the guy's been there for what is it, 1 year, and they already named it the Cohen tax?
Yeah. Go right ahead.
Yeah. No, that's incredible. That the Cohen tax. Do you know what that is?
It's the first I've actually heard about this.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I heard it on the sports media,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm hearing the Cohen tax, and I'm going the Cohen tax, and I think it's because he wants to make a big splash, and I don't think the luxury tax mean anything to this man because he wants to win,
Mm-hmm.
so he's willing to spend. But do you think that he could afford the luxury tax? I forgot how the luxury tax works. Into, let's say he wants to get an all-star team, having an all-star team, and he's willing to pay the amount as long as he wins.
Well, let's put it that way.
Because I know Aaron Judge. I mean, because he's playing without a contract right now.
Mm-hmm.
This is the end of his year. He's leaving next year. Do you think the Yankees will sign him?
I hardly think the Yankees would want to part ways with their big meal ticket right fielder, who's now a center fielder as well. He's played center and right field, and I think the Yankees would be willing to make a more than fair deal for him.
And also,
I wonder who his
uh,
agent is, though.
huh?
I wonder who his agent is, whether it's Scott Boras or whether it's somebody else.
Well, Scott Boras, he's been around for years, and he gets what he wants.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time he does get most of his wants because he got a real huge clientele,
Yeah.
really big clientele. And people that have dealt with him, they don't like him
Mm-hmm.
because he's trying to look out like that's such as Cespedes. I tell you about Cespedes, right?
Yeah.
That
Still
he
nobody
dove
has
for,
signed him.
that's because he dove for a ball and now he needs an operation.
Hmm.
But
Even before he got hurt, no one was interested in him.
the Mets were planning to sign him. The Mets actually gave him a 1-year contract or a 3-year contract, and he didn't want it. And I'm going, that's crazy, because he would fit in well with this baseball team, with the Mets baseball team, wouldn't he?
I guess so, but at the same time, you already know about his medical history. Why bring back a guy who's done nothing but get himself on the injured list?
That's true too. I mean, he's trying to work himself back. But Scott Boras is his agent.
See, that's what I thought.
You know, but I was also hearing about Brian Cashman. I think he's at the end of his contract too. What do you think of that? Do you think they'll bring him back, or does he have to prove himself he's got to win a World Series? What does he do?
I think if the Yankees make the playoffs and go to the World Series and win it, that could be motivation for them to want to sign him and bring him back.
But if he doesn't,
Then
He's got a proven track record.
Yeah. If he doesn't, then where's he going to go? I mean,
You don't think a lot of people would take him?
There are teams out there that may or may not want to employ this guy.
Why not?
Because he might be looking for more than just a general manager job. I think he would want a little bit more power than that.
What do you think? He wants ownership?
Not necessarily ownership, but probably a role as team president.
I mean, he's been with the Yankees for how long?
24 years.
24 years. Is that the longest?
The longest of any general manager, yeah.
And within that 24 years span, how many World Series has it been?
4 titles.
The Yankees have 4 titles.
They've won 4 championships with him as the general manager.
So, 24 seasons, only 4 titles.
Mm-hmm. And he's produced playoff teams year after year, especially the last 5 years. They've made the playoffs. I mean, there were stumbling blocks here and there. 2013, 2014, 2016, 2008, before that. But let me tell you, with every mistake he's made in personnel, he always seems to come up with one solution that would extend the Yankee season to at least the division series. I mean, for every Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton and Luis Severino and also DJ LeMahieu that he signed, because he's dealt with a lot of people. For every Yankee superstar that they've had, there have been also some major blunders. Jarrett Wright, Kevin Brown, Nathan Eovaldi. Do you want me to go on?
Yes.
Well, let's see. There was Javier Vasquez, who threw that death pitch to David Ortiz, which resulted in a grand slam home run.
No, damn. But he did well, though, didn't he?
Who?
Vasquez.
He was just okay in the regular season, but in the playoffs, he was woeful.
Ooh. So they've made the playoffs almost every year.
Mm-hmm.
And he's had 4 World Series under his belt.
Yeah.
What do you think? Now, after having that much of a history,
mm-hmm.
would you keep him, knowing that he gets you there to the playoffs and he has gotten 4 World Series under his belt with you?
I think the Yankees realize that they have something really good and really long going for them in Brian Cashman. I would think that the Yankees would make a more than fair offer to Brian Cashman so he could remain as the general manager.
Now, the other question that I have is, have you noticed that the big names haven't come to the New York Yankees yet?
The biggest names?
Yeah, big names. Like the shortstop, Carlos Correa.
Carlos Correa, yeah.
All them other people that were out there, and the Yankees just went nothing. I mean, they're not the George Steinbrenner era Yankees. These are the new Yankees,
mm-hmm.
where they're under the salary cap. I mean, the luxury tax. I don't know. You know that.
Mm-hmm. let me tell
because
you.
Cohen he's trying to buy up. He's trying to buy up players, and you can't blame him.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to buy up players and everything else, and the Yankees, who are known to get big name players, haven't done so.
Yeah.
Who is the biggest name player that they signed?
You mean aside from Giancarlo Stanton?
Yeah, but that was 10 years. That was a couple of years ago. Yeah, besides him, recently, there hasn't been any, right?
Well, the
Except
only
for a
one,
pitcher.
the only person I can think of is DJ LeMahieu.
I thought the last one was the pitcher.
Hmm.
Well, anyway, I mean, if you have to go that way, then he really hasn't signed a big name. I mean, he's traded for Anthony Rizzo. He's done a lot, but he hasn't got the big name.
Yeah.
And now you have to worry about Aaron Judge, who may not. You hope he signs with the Yankees, but if they lose him, how do you think of the dynamic of the team will look like if they lose him, and will they try to sign a big name player to replace him?
If they lose him, it's going to be a really crucial loss for the Yanks because he has emerged as the dominant star on the roster. As far as what they could do to replace him, I don't think they can, to be honest with you.
Do you think they'll try to replace him with a big name star or an up and coming? Because, this is what Brian Cashman has to do. And the last of the Steinburners, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, they're trying to be under the luxury tax and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Now, going to the Mets side of things.
They have played really good baseball. And more important, not only have they played really good baseball, they seem to thrive on come-from-behind victories. I mean, look at what happened Thursday night against the Phillies. Down 7-1, 7-0, mind you. And what do? They get 7 runs in the top of the 9th inning to win.
That was great for the Mets.
Oh, that was terrific.
With Philly? How did that happen?
Easy. They were taking what the pitcher was giving them, usually some fastballs down the middle, which are not with any movement. And they also were extending at bats during that comeback.
Are you able to see how many pitching changes they did? Did they do about 2 or 3
in that game?
That they blew it like that?
You mean in that particular game?
Yeah, in that particular game, because that's a meltdown. If you're winning by 7, and then the Mets come back in the 9th inning, any team, somebody must have melted down because that's impossible.
Right.
So how many, do you know offhand if they changed like 3 or 4 pitches? I'm pretty sure they had to. I don't think they're going to keep the same pitcher and blow 6 runs on the guy.
Let me check the box score here. For the record, I see Aaron Nola pitched 7 innings of 1-run, 3-hit ball. And then Jody Familia, the ex-Met, who's now at the Phillies, a perfect inning. Then the Phillies went to a kid by the name of James Norwood. James Norwood could only get one out before giving up 4 runs on 4 hits. And then they decided to
Okay.
go with their closer, which was Corey Knievel. And he
Right.
was shredded for 3 runs on 4 hits in 2/3 of an inning.
Damn. They wound up winning 8-7.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, Philadelphia does not have a strong bullpen. So they have to basically go with what they have and hope that some changes in mechanics can favor them.
I mean, they have a good manager in Joe Girardi.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm surprised, Jeremy Familia. He was injured prone at some point, right?
Yeah.
And, you go with what you know. And the Phillies must have gotten him because of that. But I'm glad that the Mets are in first place, and hopefully they're not getting hit anymore.
That's another thing. They lead baseball in the number of times they've been hit by pitches. And it's already worn very thin with the players. They hate getting thrown at. Unfortunately, one of the games where they wound up getting thrown at resulted in a benches clearing brawl. Well, maybe I shouldn't say brawl, but a benches clearing incident. Let's put it that way.
I understand, because I think it was 21 times that they got hit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going, and they're saying, oh, it's because of the baseball. And we've talked about this before, where they can't grip it.
Yeah.
It's something new with the baseball that they can't do. And I'm going, if you can't grip the baseball and you're getting hit 21 times, and Major League Baseball is not listening to you, something's wrong. If you're complaining that, hey, what's going on that we're getting hit this amount of times?
Yep.
Because no baseball team should get hit that much.
I'm not sure if it's a coincidence or not, but I think there might be a little bit of purpose behind those constant hit by pitches that the Mets are suffering from.
Well, there was one guy that got almost hit in the head. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think it bounced off his chin and then hit his head. But you're lucky he had a helmet like that. They have new helmets. Did you see the one that got hit in the testicles?
I might have missed that one.
There was one guy, I think he's from the A's game.
Oh, yeah.
The ball, the pitcher, I don't know if it went from his bat and hit his thank goodness for cups.
Mm-hmm.
Thank goodness for cups. Because I've seen that over and over again, and I'm going, damn. Because even with a cup, and because the cup is rubber on the side, you're still going to get a little hurting because it's pressuring you on the side.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you think Steve Cohen, in his first or second year of being the owner, has done?
Well, he hasn't been terrible. I kind of wish that maybe he could try and find at least one superstar that can complement the batting order. But I think he might have limited, or he might have lowered his standards a little bit after the Francisco Lindor trade. But overall, he's done reasonably well.
Well, why do you think he's lowered his standards? That man was trying to buy everybody.
Because, for one, the players didn't really they were a little unsure about the Mets, especially that owner. They didn't know about him. They practically didn't know the guy. And they wanted to go someplace where they felt like they had a better chance of winning. So,
because remember, when he first came in, and they had that first losing season.
Mm-hmm.
He said, he opened up his wallet, and he really did want to buy almost anybody he can get.
Mm-hmm.
He really did try, and that's how come they have the so-called Cohen tax.
Yeah.
They named it after him. I can't believe it. But oh, you know something?
Mm-hmm.
I was seeing the Rangers game.
Oh.
You know, I was picking up. I was going to pick up some DD,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw the bloody Rangers lose.
Yeah. Speaking of the Rangers, they're playing
Seven
right now
to
against the
five.
Penguins.
No, 7-4. Was
Yeah.
it? Was it 7-4?
Yeah, 7-4.
Because they took out their goalie.
Yeah.
The goalie out because they wanted to do one of those. Because they were winning. No, I'm sorry. They lost. They were up 4, and it was 5-4.
Mm-hmm.
They took out their goalie, and then afterwards it became 7-4.
Yeah.
And I was pissed because the game was tied 1-1, and now the Penguins are up 2-1. But you said yourself that the Penguins are the better team.
Oh, they're definitely the better team, and I see that the Rangers wound up scoring first. Alexis Lafreniere wound up getting a goal, so it's 1-0 in the first period. And the game's on ESPN in case you want to watch it.
Yeah, and how is that? They play how many games? 5?
5.
Best of 5. And
It's
then
best of 7, actually,
to the playoffs?
in the first round and beyond.
Oh, wow. I thought it was like baseball, best of 5, but okay.
They've been playing best of 7 series in the first round for years.
Oh, wow. Do the Mets have that much? I mean, do the Rangers have really that much of a good sense of winning?
Well, if you
Do
ask
you think
them, they
there's
would
a
say
chance?
so, but unfortunately, it's a little bit more than that.
So, what do you think they're gonna if they lose? What do you think they're gonna go by? Like
It'll be a
4-3?
really big disappointment for them because they actually
Do you
thought that they
think
had
it'll
a team
go
that could
7?
probably go a long way. And just to give you an idea about how serious the Rangers are of making the playoffs and challenging for that Stanley Cup, the Islanders fired Barry Trotz, their head coach, all because they missed the playoffs this past season. The guy won 4 series in 2 years, made the Eastern Conference Finals twice, and then all of a sudden, because of a disappointing season this year, he winds up getting his walking papers.
Now, in your eyes, did they do the right thing?
Honestly, I don't think that they really gave Trotz a fair shake. I thought he could have at least returned for one more game, or for one more season, I should say.
So they fired him because they made the playoffs the first 2 times, and then they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll put it to you this way: did they have the manpower to be able to do that?
Unfortunately, not. I mean, Matthew Barzal was their best player, and he had a solid season. But I think their problem was they were not able to get themselves a power play quarterback who could put the puck in the net.
Right, because within the era of Trot, did the team change a lot?
Yeah, they wound up losing some pretty important people.
Really? And that's how come this guy, But even when he lost to people, he still made the playoffs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is what I'm trying to figure out. Is it because the amount of people that he lost, he didn't make the playoffs? The first two times that he did make the playoffs, he still had the same team, right?
Almost the same team, yeah.
And the season that he had a really bad season,
I
it
mean, it
was still
wasn't
the same team.
terrible. I mean, after all, they wound up. Let me look at the standings here. Here we are. The Islanders were 37, 35, and 10. I mean, it wasn't terrible, but unfortunately, management wanted to go in another direction.
Well, there's been, what, a couple of firings so far?
Mm-hmm.
Who are they going to get? I mean, Al Arbor's still there as the GM, right? Or the
I think you're
guru?
talking about Lou Lamoriello.
Yeah, he's still there.
Mm-hmm.
Wonder who he's going to hire as coach.
My guess would be somebody that had the same line of experience as Trotz did.
Well, who's out there that you know?
I couldn't even begin to tell you.
Oh, okay, I understand. I
Mm-hmm.
understand. I get it because so how is that set up now? The Rangers they're down 2-1. Do you think that the series will go 7?
I will say this. If the Penguins win tonight, they're wrapping it up in Madison Square Garden. I think it goes 5.
But if it doesn't, if the Rangers win,
If they win Game 5, then the Penguins would wrap it up in Game 6 at home.
okay. So you don't expect it to go 7.
No.
How about the other teams?
As far as the other series, I'm looking at the scoreboard here. Capitals lead 1-0 over the Panthers in the first period. Colorado versus Nashville is later on tonight. Colorado can actually sweep the series if they win tonight. And there's also Calgary against Dallas. And Dallas leads 2-1. That's only tonight's action, though.
Yeah. Well, at least, do you think who's going to go in what you've told me? Who's going to go 7? Which team is going to go 7 games? You think?
If I had to guess, I think the series between the Hurricanes and the Bruins is pretty competitive. They're tied at 2.
Oh, so that'll
there's also
probably...
the Maple Leafs and the Lightning. They're tied at 2.
Wow. Well, let's see who goes to the 7. Let's see who goes to the 7 and so on.
There's also Oilers, Kings, and Wild Blues. Both of those series are tied at 2.
Wow. But let me switch up on something. When it comes to the Brooklyn Nets, now that they've had a disappointing year.
This was a colossal disappointment. Not only did they trade away James Harden to Philly, they were without one of their best players for the whole season, Joe Harris, who was their top three-point shooter, missed the entire season. Not only that, but Kyrie Irving decided not to play because he was not allowed to be on the court because of the whole COVID thing.
Right. He didn't want to. He was still trying to find information about the shot. The COVID shot. It took him how many games to find out, But and Kevin Durant didn't do nothing. He faded out with the Celtics.
He had a solid regular season, but these playoffs, The real reason why the Nets got swept is because the Celtics played terrific defense against him.
And he did have Kyrie Irving with him, right?
Mm-hmm. Both of those guys were there for the entirety of the playoffs, which consisted of 4 games.
Oh, wow.
This is why the Nets need to make some changes. I would say get at least 1 or 2 big men. And if necessary, get another shooter as well.
Don't they have shooters with Steph Curry's brother? And
They
Ben
do,
Simmons
but
gotta
he's
come
been a
back.
little bit erratic from time to time.
And remember, next year you have Ben Simmons coming back, hopefully. And you got the other 2 players that came with the trade, plus a pick.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you think? Do you think Ben Simmons will come back and play for the Nets, or do you think they'll trade him?
That's a good question. Because depending on his contract,
Right.
he may or may not be leaving.
Because I can say this much. I mean, he is a young guy. He's one of the best defenders in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And he's made the All-Star League, a couple of times already. So it's not like he's a slouch. He's a damn good ball player when he's on the court.
Mm-hmm. And for the record, Ben Simmons has 1, 2, 3, at least 3 more years on his contract. Correction, 4 years on his contract.
Exactly. So that's,
It's
he's
going to be
manageable.
really hard to find a sucker. I mean, a willing participant who's going to want a 6'10" point guard who doesn't know how to make a shot to save his life.
But he can pass and defend.
He can pass and he can defend, but again, he can't shoot the ball.
But he's got to go to a team that has other players that can shoot.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure if the Nets are that team.
I sent you stuff, and
like
we talked about before.
Mm-hmm.
Like we talked about before, and one of the trades was to get Gobert,
Rudy Gobert from the Jazz.
Yeah, the Jazz, and you give him Ben Simmons, a draft choice, and I forgot who else. Because they got to match contracts too. So Gobert going to the Nets.
Mm-hmm.
Now Gobert is a defender. He's not really a shooter.
Well, he's about 7 feet tall.
He's going to give you defense. He's going to give you a lot of defense around the rim.
Right.
But he's not a shooter. But at least you'll have a big man that could defend. He's an all-star. He could defend and everything else. So at least you'll have that. But I don't know. I mean, do you try to trade Ben Simmons, even though when he's on, he's on. He's a damn good ball player when he's healthy.
Mm-hmm. Which reminds me, he underwent back surgery just recently. So he's going to have the entire summer to recuperate. Which means he should be back by the time training camp begins in October.
And that's the thing. Even in a trade, a lot of people won't take it because they want to see how he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do the Nets do now?
Well, I take it going home and licking their wounds has already taken place. So they're just going to have to start from scratch.
Yeah, but how do they rebuild considering they're at their max they have the luxury tax. No, they have the cap, right?
Mm-hmm.
Basketball has the cap.
Right.
Basketball has the cap, and football has the cap. And you know, is Blake Griffin coming back? What's going on with their contracts? Do you think that there's going to be some wiggle room that they're going to? Who's out there that the Nets can get that'll fit in, one, and two, that won't cost them much, or they'll be able to
Well,
get in with the cap?
I will say this. A Rudy Gobert for Ben Simmons trade would not make any sense on Utah's side. I think, quite frankly, the Nets are going to be really fortunate if they could find a sucker to take his contract off their hands.
Because they're talking about getting Donovan Mitchell away, getting rid of him. Who is it that's not? Is it Gobert and Mitchell that are not getting along?
Yeah, there's been a lot of rumors going around that those two don't like each other. So something is going to have to be done.
So it's one or the other. Who would you get rid of?
Who would the Jazz get rid of? If it was up to them, they'd keep both of those guys on the roster.
No, if it was up to you.
If it was up to me, I would imagine a Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and Donovan Mitchell trio, which would look really, really dangerous.
So you think that the Nets should go after Mitchell instead?
Yeah, I do.
And what pieces do you get back to the Mavericks? I'm sorry, the Jazz.
What you would do?
You give him Ben Simmons.
Mm-hmm.
And who else? Because remember, you got to match his contract.
Yeah. Let's see. Maybe Nicholas Claxton,
and probably a number one,
who's actually going to be a free agent at the end of the year.
See, that's good. Some teams will want that because they want to get salary cap.
Mm-hmm.
They want to go under the salary cap next year.
Yeah.
But do you think Steve Nash will keep his job?
I think he'll keep his job. Yeah, it would be foolish for the Nets to try and get rid of a guy who has such basketball knowledge that. Well, let me put it this way: they would have to find a really good reason not to bring him back next year.
Well, it was a disappointing year, just like the Islanders. They went to the playoffs twice and didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And then in the third year, they got rid of their coach. What's so special about Nash that they're keeping him? The players must like him then. I would assume.
The players have a lot of respect for him, and he's really knowledgeable about the game. Keep in mind, what position did Steve Nash play in his playing days? He was a point guard. Point guards have the responsibility of seeing everything that is going on the court right now. So I would think that Steve Nash would be the same way as a head coach like he was when he was a player.
Well, now that we've covered the Nets, now we got to cover the fantastic, wonderful, pragmatic New York Knicks.
Oh, brother.
They're also, because I sent you a couple of articles, they're linked to Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, Brunson.
Not sure if
Uh,
Jalen Brunson's starting material, though.
well, he's doing well in the playoffs. He's lit. He's lighting it up. And it's his last year of his contract, and he's doing well in the playoffs for them.
He's
And
played well,
that
but
goes.
don't be too fooled by the way he's been playing. I mean, who's to say that he's not going to turn into a bust with somebody else's team next season? That's assuming he does leave Dallas.
And then Tyrese, somebody.
You mean Tyus Jones?
Yeah, Tyus Jones. If they can't get Bronson, it's him. He's not a starter either, is he?
I don't think so.
He's behind Donovan Mitchell. That's his backup.
Mm-hmm.
But they're saying that he's another guy that is lighting it up, or did light it up when he was able to play. But is he a starter? And the Knicks actually have, if the Utah Jazz are trying to start over again, I think I would deal with the Knicks than with the Nets, because they have expiring contracts and they actually have more picks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the problem is, who on the Knicks do they want as a trade? And I'm hoping, because imagine, let's say, Donovan Mitchell coming to the Knicks and he's playing with R.J. Barrett. That would be a hell of a combination, I think. Or they're also talking about Rudy Gobert going on the Knicks as well.
Well,
which one would you prefer, Gobert or Mitchell on the Knicks?
Well, the Knicks need so much right now that I don't really know where to begin. But if the Knicks are really serious about wanting to cut a deal with the Jazz, I'd look at Donovan Mitchell first. He's got superstar material going for him.
And imagine him and R.J. Barrett. That'd be a hell of a combination. That would be a hell of a combination.
Well, it'd be okay. Yeah. I mean, they're not going to be world beaters just with those two.
Well, put it this way. When I say it's going to be a hell of a combination, because they haven't had two guards that are special.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they haven't had that in a very long time, the Knicks.
They haven't had that since Mark Jackson.
Exactly.
Speaking of whom, he's already gotten job interview offers with, I think, with the Lakers and also with the Sacramento Kings.
And Howard is another one.
Juwan Howard, you mean?
Yeah, Juwan Howard for the Lakers. Why did they get rid of the head coach for the Lakers?
Because he lost control of the locker room. That's why.
I don't think he lost control. I think he wanted to bench LeBron, and LeBron said no. See, that's something that when your player says something, your star player says something like a LeBron James. LeBron James can get a coach fired.
Yeah.
Instead of it being the other way around, LeBron James is one of the very few people that could actually get someone fired.
Yeah.
Is that right or wrong?
No, you're right. I mean, everywhere he's been, from Cleveland to Miami, back to Cleveland, and now the Lakers, I just find it coincidental that so many guys have wound up costing themselves their jobs because of the way they try to interact with LeBron.
the last coach he wanted was Lou, his former coach
Mm-hmm.
from Cleveland. And that's another thing. The Knicks are saying Russell Westbrook.
No, not Russell Westbrook, please.
And the reason why I say this, hear me out, because Russell Westbrook is at the end of his contract.
I
So
know
he
he's
has
got
1 year
one more
left.
year left in his deal.
Right. And if you want to get salary dump, if you get him for 1 year and you want salary cap, that's the guy to go for. So you're able to get someone better next year, the year after. Because if you notice, the Knicks have a couple of contract expirations coming up, with an option and all that. So the Knicks are in a decent place. That's how come they're trading. They could trade Alex Burks. The only person that I would miss is Derrick Rose. But he's at the end of his contract. There's like a 3 or 4 people that are at the end of the contract. Mitchell Robinson is a free agent.
Yeah.
So you pay him the highest paid possible to get Mitchell Robinson, because Niles Noel is another one that his contract is ending too. So this is why I'm saying that the Knicks, if people want to go for a salary dump, they can go to the Knicks and say, we want Burks, we want this guy, and we want that guy, because their contracts are expanding. They're exiting. And if they want, like I said, room for the salary cap, they can go for them.
Mm-hmm.
But what if any of those things that I've sent you that you read, what do you think of them? Especially the deals that they had supposedly. What are the chances of the Knicks? What is it? 2% chance that the Knicks may get the number 1 draft pick. What do you think of that?
That'll be the day.
And if so, let's say they get the number 1 draft pick. Who in college right now would they get?
The only person I can think of is Paolo Banchero from Duke.
Who?
Paolo Banchero.
And and what does he do? Is he a guard or a center?
He's 6'8", so that would make him a small forward.
Small forward. So he would go number 1. He's number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Dear God. What about guards?
What about guards? Well, let's see.
In any of the mock drafts that they have, who's the number 1 guard? Because the Knicks need a guard. But my thing is, they got Grimes, Quigley, McBride, R.J. Barrett, Alex Burks. All the guys that I mentioned, they just play only one position as a guard?
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm asking you. Do all those guys just play one position as a guard? They just know how to pass. They're not shooting guards.
Hector, you're going to have to hold off on that until next week because we got 15 seconds.
I'm sorry.
Quite all right. Thanks to Kenny Graham on the other side of the glass. Thanks to you guys for watching at home. For everyone here, I'm Jamie.
I'm Hector.
Enjoy the playoffs. Good night, everyone.
90-90.